younger cadets. So we have actual Canadian members come, like that are a part of the Canadian Armed Forces. They come to our unit and they teach us how to do stuff. Right now we have a corporal from our regiment, which is really cool. And our last commanding officer, he was a general, which was also really good. Yeah, so what they basically do, they teach us how to involve with like the discipline and leadership and all that stuff. So where the funding comes from, so the Department of National Defense, DND, which is from the government, so thank you taxpayers, thank you, thank you. So we get our funding from them. We also do a lot of like tagging sales, so we'd go out into the community and then we'd give them bookmarks and they'd like donate like $20 or $5, like anything helps. We also get it from the parent support community. So essentially, the parents would like form fundraisers, or like we also have canteen where we put like money in and then we'd get snacks. It's really good for our community. And so this is how to join the cadet program. So once again, it's from youth 12 to 19. So if you guys have like any younger siblings or kids at home, this is recommended. So they need parental consent. You can find your local unit using this QR code, and it's like online enrollment. It's really good. I 100% recommend this program. So once again, I am Warrant Officer Hannah Chadske, and thank you all for coming today to hear about the cadet program. Thank you.
Can we just give Hannah one more round of applause? That was amazing. I know some of us have aged out of the 12 to 19, but I mean, some of us want to join now, right? I know I want to join. So I'll look into it. Maybe I can age backwards. But thank you so much, Hannah. And if you have any questions about the cadet program, feel free to see Hannah, speak to her. She'll be able to give you her presentation once again, and she'll tell you all that you need to know about the cadet program. Now I would love to introduce our next speaker, Cyril Akwo. So, Cyril Akwo, who is the former president of Camera SC Toronto, a non-profit organization that promotes diversity and inclusion through sports, arts, and culture. Cyril has been a strong advocate against anti-Black racism and has worked to build community integration. During his time with Camera SC, he collaborated with key organizations to support
Okay, I think everyone can hear me. My voice should be loud enough. So, as said, thank you very much for that introduction. My name is Cyril Akwo. I am...
the mic for the streamers.
I am presently part of the group that organized this event. Several challenges that have to do with non-profit organizations to apply for funding and get help where it is needed. So today I'm going to walk you through the power of self-reinvention, which is something that really helps us to grow and to navigate difficult scenes. I have been through several difficult scenes myself, and I'm going to be sharing that experience and try to motivate people not to give up when things go wrong and when situations get really tough. So I'm going to give you a few steps on how to reinvent, but then this will not be the focus. The focus will be on my own personal experiences and how I have used challenges to reinvent myself until getting to the point where I am able to motivate other people to do the same. So usually in life, we have a will to become something, and maybe we find ourselves in situations where we can't become that. And how do we become what we want to become? We have to reinvent ourselves and change ourselves or metamorphose. And so the first thing you have to do is to create a vision of the kind of life that you want to have. So you may be at one point, but you want to move to the next. For you to be successful in doing that, you need to know exactly what that life that you want looks like. So you create that vision, and once you create that vision, it's visualized. For you to get something out of it, you should write it down. So when you write that down about how you want to reinvent yourself, that becomes now a strategic vision. And from there, you have to surround yourself with visual cues. We call them cues because they keep directing you towards that vision that you have, that you want as a life. So those cues will serve as reminders. Sometimes some of us have calendars in our houses. I have bought in my house that I'll write several things on, goals that I want to achieve and things like that. So that tells me all the time that this is what you have to do at this time. And then I can go on to say that once you have that vision written all over you, you have to break it down into smaller tasks. Because when you have a very broad vision, it looks very cumbersome until you have broken it down to smaller pieces and start to put dates or deadlines on those smaller pieces. That is when you actually have a plan that you want to execute. If you don't break it down, it will become very difficult. You look at it as one big vision, but you cannot realize it. And then you finally have to, when you start executing these smaller tasks that you have broken them down, you now have to always feed them back to the vision by regularly revisiting the vision that you created for yourself. And with that, you can always keep track of what you're trying to do. So these are some steps. You can always change things around. So I'm going to walk you through my life and how I kept reinventing myself until I got to where I am today. So I will talk about my childhood circumstances. I was born in Africa, in Cameroon. I don't know if anyone knows Cameroon here. The West African football nation. I know that when I say football or soccer, everyone is going to relate because we had some of the best African players ever. And basketball as well. Joel Embiid is one of them. Pascal Siakam is another. Robert Mbamute is another one. So that was a pioneer. So I grew up in Cameroon. I was born there in it's a town, but that's why I'm starting with my childhood circumstances. At 9 months old, my mom had to go back to school. So she handed me over to my grandmom. My grandmom took me from that time until I was at least 15. That's when I rejoined my mom at a much later age. When I joined my mom, I had to go to school, like secondary school, and that's where my education, actual education started. I went to high school, and several times I would see bigger people, professors come to talk to us about the future. And I started to envision what, I started to envision what I wanted for my life based on what I have seen from other people, these professors. So at that point, I was in secondary school. I was going towards a certain direction, but because other people, leaders and stuff, came and showed me, I decided to okay, I have to reinvent. So my reinvention journey started from that time. I was arts inclined, I was deeply involved in history, in geography and economics. And then somebody spoke to us about how pilots fly planes and stuff and told us, for you to get this, this is what you should study, right? So from that moment, I said, okay, I want to become this kind of person. I had to change my plan. So at high school, I changed from arts to pure science. I did biochemistry, biology, chemistry, mathematics, and physics. So at that point, I had to go back through myself and see, will I be able to do this? How do I become this person? So that reinvention started there. I went through that education. I read microbiology at the university and biochemistry at postgrad, and then back to medical microbiology. So I went through a whole tandem of things, and then I finally landed myself as a lecturer in the university, and that had moved me totally away from the vision that I had at high school because of life circumstances. But I still knew that wherever I wanted to be was possible. So at that point, where I was working as a university lecturer in Cameroon, I had said to myself, I have to teach in an international university. I have to work in an international university. The only thing that's going to make me leave Cameroon is if I am hired as an expatriate to work in an international university. My friends, almost all my friends, had traveled abroad for greener pastures through whatever means, but I said I am not going to leave the motherland through an unorthodox means. And I drew a vision and I said, the only thing that's going to take me out of here is if I get a job that takes me abroad and is paid for. And that's how my immigration journey started. I applied to move to Canada. It failed. That was around 2008, I think. And then I went back to school. I acquired a master's degree. I started a PhD. Then I started teaching in the university. Then I reapplied to come to Canada. It took so long, and then I got a job in South America to teach in medical school, and I left Cameroon. So the vision that I had planned it, and I said, until this happens, I am not leaving. And I had to achieve that. While in South America, the vision was Canada. I had a dream of coming here, so I had to do everything possible. That reinvention continued. I had to do everything possible to make sure that I got to Canada. So I had to start making a plan. How do I get there? What is involved? What do I need? And I devised the whole plan. I applied for the Quebec Skilled Worker Program. I speak French. So I wrote a test. I passed the test in French. And finally, everything went. Fast forward, I am presently in Canada. So you keep going. You keep going. You have to reinvent always. You may be derailed, but somehow the vision should stay, and you always have to find a way to get to where you want to be. Now, the reinvention journey in Canada. Canada has not been a bed of roses. For those of you who immigrated, maybe most of you here were born here, but those of us that immigrated to Canada at already an adult age, I came here maybe at 29 or 30, it is not a bed of roses. So, I landed in Montreal. I was handed a brochure that says, "Welcome to Canada." I took that brochure and I kept it behind my bed. I went to Gatineau. I stayed in Gatineau for 1 month because I was a Quebec skilled worker and I was required to stay in a French province. But then I realized this is not where I'm supposed to be. The federal government allows me to stay wherever I wanted to stay. So I moved to close by Ottawa, which is 30 minutes away from Gatineau, and I lived in Ottawa. In Ottawa, I wanted to go back to school. I applied for a PhD in the University of Ottawa. I was refused, saying that the level of education that I had from Cameroon is not equivalent to what the Canadian education is. So you start having those stumbling blocks, but that doesn't deter me from the goal. University of Ottawa decided to give me a master's degree. So come back and do a master's degree. If you finish your first year and you're successful and you want to move to the PhD directly without finishing the master's degree, that is allowed. But then there was a caveat. You need to find a supervisor to fund your research. I was giving a $25,000 scholarship, but still contingent on the fact that there should be a supervisor, so a faculty member would accept you to be your supervisor. I didn't find one for 1 year. I struggled. I wrote to all types of professors across east to west of Canada. Almost all universities know my name, and I kept knocking doors. So that was the plan. The reinvention is, I have to do this, I have this plan, I have to reach supervisors in almost all parts of Canada until I find one. In Ottawa, I found a professor at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency in Ottawa. I wrote to him several times and he did not respond. I found his number, I called him, and I said, I have been writing you emails and I didn't get any response. And he said to me, oh, you are the African. That's racist to me, and under normal circumstances, someone would be feeling so bad and decide, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. But you have a vision that you have created that you have to still continue to follow. I decided to meet him. We had a discussion. He told me, I don't have funding in my lab right now, but if you want to come in, I can give you some things here to do as a project. And I decided to go into the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And sometimes there are things that in your vision may not align, but you see a bigger opportunity in that. And I took that opportunity to join the Canadian Food Inspection Agency in my very first year that I was in Canada. So after life became very, very tough, I tried to find other kind of jobs and I didn't see I had to go into the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and work almost for free. I was doing stuff there for almost free. And then I went back and I looked at the brochure that was handed to me in Montreal when I landed. I decided to read some stuff. I said, maybe there is information in here. After 1 year, that was after 1 year, maybe there's information in here that I didn't have or I didn't know that I need to know. And that's when I discovered it is written in that brochure. The federal government doesn't hide it. It says your international qualifications or your certificates qualify you for immigration, but they don't qualify you for jobs. So you should think of going back to school. What are they telling you? Reinvent yourself. You have to go back to school. You have to change careers. You have to switch from one end to the other. And that's when I started again. I said to myself, so this reinvention journey is never going to end. So I have to go back to the table, created a vision. Look for other types of programs that could make me become who I wanted to be. So I found a program at then Rising University, downtown Toronto, now Toronto Metropolitan University, in public health. It's a 4-year degree program. I cracked it in 2 years with honors. And with that, the University of Guelph gave me a direct admission to a PhD. So that's where I am presently, a PhD researcher at the University of Guelph. This little guy that started back in Cameroon with a vision of joining the big tables had that vision. No matter what troubles I had along the way, right now I am with those big people in the University of Guelph. I am doing research at the University of Guelph, and very soon, God willing, should be a doctoral in the next couple of weeks. So that reinvention journey continued. That took me to Guelph, and presently I am in the university in Western Ontario. I am a quality assurance manager in one of the biggest research facilities, one of the biggest food manufacturing businesses that is in Africa, in Ghana. It's in Austin, Texas, and it's in London, Ontario. So you keep reinventing yourself until you get to where you want to be. And mind you, it has not stopped. It is still going to continue because life changes, circumstances change, and you have to keep going. So I want to encourage everyone, do not relent your efforts. Yeah. Things are going to go rough, but you have to still continue going. Amen. Okay. So, in this journey of my life, the reinvention that I have painted was not very easy. So I want to tell you that if you are going to reinvent yourself, you have to be ready for some very tough challenges and tough decisions that you have to make. Sometimes you will have to break away from people. You will have to break away from people you love because they don't have the same vision that you have. You will come back to them maybe at a later stage and they will begin to understand why you had to break away. I have done that a lot of times. I've abandoned my family. I stayed for months without talking to anyone because I had to do the things that I had to do. Why am I saying this? It's because a lot of people do not have the courage to reinvent themselves. Now, that is because we live in a society. And a society is just a system of normalized averages with written rules that are codified to create the average for the average. In Canada, in North America, the middle class runs the economy. The economy is kept, that's why they tax people in tax brackets, so that they keep people in the middle class, and that middle class is what survives the rest of the economy. So they create a system of normalized averages, and what they just do is keep everyone almost on an average, and you're happy. That's why when you are born, your mother tells you, you have to go to school, you have to get married, you have to give birth to 2.5 kids, you have to live in a house with a picket fence and things like that. It's just a system that has been created that makes you to be comfortable. The moment you break away from these rules of society, you become an outcast. People will hate you, and so on and so forth. It does to you, so once you break away from society, it does to you exactly what they do to people in prison. So reinventing yourself is like a prison. You have to be able to withstand whatever consequences come with that. By nature, human beings like to be part of the society. They like to associate with people, and once you remove them from there, it breaks them. Right? It breaks them. So when you break the rules in prison, what do they do to you? They put you in isolation because they know that once they take you away from the rest of the group, it will break you more. The worst form of punishment is not physical punishment, it's isolation. That's why when you break the rules of society, they put you in prison. If you go to prison and break a rule, they put you in isolation because they are trying to break you, and if you're not strong, it will break you. That's the same thing that happens in reinvention. If you have to reinvent yourself, sometimes, like I said before, you would need to break away from people, you need to break away from society. Not everyone has the courage to do that because we born to people, we born to society, and we do not want to break away from society. So only the tough people will reinvent. If you're not tough, you will not reinvent because that means you have to take yourself away from society. I'll give you examples. When I came to Toronto, for example, I moved from Ottawa to Toronto, I had been in school and people keep asking me, why are you always in school? And because of that, I don't have a lot of friends. I have very few friends. Sometimes, if I have things I have to prepare for, I have to go for conferences and stuff, I have to do research, I break away from people, I stay for 6 months, nobody sees me. I am in isolation. So to tell you this and to conclude is, for you to reinvent yourself, you have to be very tough. You have to be strong. You have to make sure that you can withstand isolation. Because nobody understands the vision that you have for yourself. You alone knows where you want to be. And for you to be able to do that, to realize that vision, you will need to break away from people. And if you break away from people, it may break you. So you have to be ready for that challenge, and you have to take care of yourself in order to reinvent. I applaud everyone that is here taking the courage to come here. And I want to tell you that Afro-Canada Development Foundation has come to stay. It's a reinvention in process. It's a reinvention that we want to do. We may start small as we have started, but there is a vision. And that vision is going to be realized in the long run through constant reinvention. Thank you very much for listening. I can have some questions if there is time, but if not, then you can meet me later for any discussions. Thank you.
Oh well, right? Now, I'd like to invite our next speaker to the stage, and our next speaker is Charlene Grant. So, Charlene Grant is the Chief Advocacy Officer for Parents of Black Children and a dedicated mother of 3. Charlene is well known for her courageous fight against systemic racism within the York District School Board, leading to significant provincial changes in education, accountability, and equity training. With over 20 years of experience in law, real estate, and management, she's also a local business owner in Vaughan. Charlene has been honored with the Courage Award for the National Council of Canadian Muslims and the President's Award from the Association of Black Law Enforcers. Please welcome Charlene to the stage.
I'm good. I wanted to have a conversation. So I am, 1 second, hold on. Oh. So, human rights. Every child deserves a right to education, a peaceful education. If you have children in the education system, you'll know that sometimes it's not peaceful. And when I say it's not peaceful, it's the way our children are treated. I'm probably going to go ahead of the slides, just so you know it's all good. When our children enter the education system in kindergarten, my husband knows I say this all the time. You know, it becomes a joke sometimes, because if I am not there, how would you know how to serve me?
True.
You're there to serve me. My oldest now, he's 23, when he was 10, he would go to school and say, my mom said you all work for me. He's right. We pay taxes. They do work for us. So we are Parents of Black Children, a grassroots organization. Our name is deliberate. We wanted to center our focus on our advocacy for our Black children. And so we are parents of Black children. I say that because we know our children are not always in Black-only homes. They are adopted. They have different parents that doesn't look like them, but we focus on our children. Our children, and for us, we advocate for Black children in education, in the child welfare system, and in the criminal justice system. My favorite line is, wherever our babies are, we're there to protect and advocate for them vigorously. And we do that without apology. We do that without reservation. The gentleman before me said it. It's about, I don't try to fit in. I don't try to be in it. Like I deliberately disrupt spaces that I go in. I walk in the bank and I say, can I have a Black person to serve me today? I do want a Black person. And when I say Black, can you give me a dark-skinned person? Because I know what they would do. And they go, huh? Like, yeah. I buy your juice. And I want to be served by someone that looks like me. I'm sorry. I pay dues. So with our advocacy, we're looking to transform the education system. Here's the thing about the education system. I've never read it cover to cover, but what I have read and what I know nothing in that Education Act talks about me and you. You know why? Because no one that looked like us was at the table when they were creating that Education Act. So therefore, when they tell me garbage like, oh, the policy says this and the Education Act says that, I said, until you could show me in that, I am not following that. I create a different framework that centers me. I know they can't do it. I know they get baffled and they get upset, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not like, I can't worry about your feelings today, because right now the Education Act itself is violent towards people that look like me. Why? Because we're not in there. So therefore, how could they say the Education Act says this and the Education Act says that? When we go in, when we get a call, and I'm going to go through the process of when you all reach out to us, when we get a call, I want them to tell me, show me how the Education Act and what you have created centers this child, this Black child that looks like us, that looks like me. And I know they can't, and they get all upset, and that's where we get them. Because right away our rights are violated. When our children walk into school, not even very rarely, you'll see the secretaries that look like us, the office staff. There's no pictures on the wall that looks like us. So think about that. And I said, in itself, it's violent. We had a director of education in York region, came from Nova Scotia, a white man, and he called our group to come and speak. I say they make mistakes if they call us in, if you're not ready to be uncomfortable, because we're going to make you uncomfortable. And I walked into their boardroom, and I saw all the priests on their wall. Everybody's face is white. And I said, so when they asked, I gave a question, I said, yeah, I know they're Black priests. Where are they? Put some up. So when I come in here, because here's what they say, all are welcome. So they invite you, and they say you're welcome. But how do you make someone feel welcome if you don't prepare a table for them? Prepare a table for me. Show me. And you show me, and I do not want words. I want action. And I tell them, when you came to the shores of my people, you were the original human traffickers. So when you came and you took us from our loving families and brought us here, first of all, you did it, so therefore take care of us. You did it because it was self-serving to you. And you lied when you did that. And you used everything in your power to do that against us. Let me go through our slides. So in our support, we have our virtual campus, virtual campus. We have our Edge tutoring program. and we provide mental health, and we provide system navigation. Let me explain some of what we do. We thrive ourselves on not doing programs. There's many organizations, there's many groups that provide programs for Black students, Black people. We don't want to do that. Some of these we kind of morph into it in the sense that our Edge Tutoring program, our goal ultimately to have our own school, so that's where the tutoring comes in. Our mental health, oh my gosh, our mental health. The gentleman talked about isolation, and I'm going to get into some examples of what they do to our children so you'll know. Our mental health program came about because once I was in Durham advocating for a family, and the uncle was the advocate before I stepped in, and I could see the trauma and the pain on this man. And I remember leaving that meeting, and it was one of the first meetings where one of their leaders tried to quote the Education Act to me, and I said, perfect. In that, find the page in that act that talks about black students. He couldn't, he got all red. And I didn't realize at the time, but it was during COVID, I had a mask, and my mask said Black Lives Matter. And I didn't realize I was part of the threat to him. And I came out the car and I just loved it because now they're uncomfortable, so it made me feel good. So I remember saying we need to create a therapy fund for our parents and our children. We got funding, a little bit of money, I can't remember how much it wasn't even that much. And we made the mistake of advertising it. Within less than an hour, we had 5 times the amount of people that we could serve. We only could serve 30. And it makes me realize how many of us, and I say us, myself included, walking around with unhealed trauma from racist experiences that we have had throughout our lives. If you were born here, it's a little bit different for you. I'll tell you why. If you're from, hold on, I'll tell you why I say that. Because I'm from Jamaica and I came here when I was 15 years old, I'm used to seeing people in power that looks like me. So, but my children and my husband, it was like when I tell that, but my husband was born here, they were experiencing it from they were in the womb. So when I mean they were born into it, they can't even escape it. It's like in the air that you breathe. Whereas when I came different. When I came and I heard about Black History Month, I'm like, what is this garbage Black History Month? I'm Black every day. But now I got to understand where it came from, so I have a lot of respect for it, don't get me wrong. But I know I understood it. But but with that, we evolved. And when we know better, we do better. So that's how our mental health funding was formed. And we provide mental health support because we see the trauma and the anxiety that our family experience. And let me go a little bit into what I mean by that. When our children experience racism and they are going through it day in and day out, and I know if you're from the continent or the Caribbean, we have the utmost respect for educators. And we know education is power. And they trust and believe they know that about us. So when our children walk in, we say it all the time, do not embarrass us, go do the right thing, make sure you follow all the rules. No. It's too much for somebody to put on that armor to try and be perfect. You cannot be perfect. You're setting them up for failure, you're setting them up to develop mental health. And we see it all the time. I have 3 children. And I have 2 boys and my princess. And I say it all the time, my boys experience it differently. There's a target on their back, and they experience it differently. So when our children walk into school, and we get silly calls, you tell me if I'm wrong, because I know it happened to me and happened to a lot of our parents. Your phones are constantly ringing. They're calling you saying, they did this, they did that. For silly things. For silly things, it's harassment. They're violating your human rights code. It's harassment. When they call and say, oh, you're not standing straight in line, what does that even mean? What does that even mean, you're not standing straight in line? They're not, our kids will raise their hand, they're not being picked on. I remember this, I call her my little Angela Davis, she was 10 years old. She was walking in the hallway and heard these group of white boys call another little black boy the N-word. And he was okay with it. She thought, he didn't react. Like it was normalized for him. And she stopped. She goes, you can't say that. So then they turned on her. And when I say they turned on her, first she went and reported it and they did nothing. She was in class a few days later and her teacher was doing a lesson and dropped the N-word in the lesson. We can't even make up these stories if we try, because who does this? So when she dropped the N-word, my little Angela Davis picked up her phone and pressed record. She went to the principal to report it, and the principal said to her, are you sure, try to gaslight her, are you sure you didn't hear Niger? My little Angela Davis said, I knew you wouldn't believe me. Here's the recording. Here's the bait and switch, or the manipulation. She goes, oh, there's a no recording rule, so now I'm going to have to suspend you. She said, what? You see how it switched. The goalpost changes every day and every time. That little girl was going home on the school bus that day, and the same group of white boys said to her, they started calling her the N-word, and they said to her, we are a proud member of the KKK. If you know, even out of those words, it's violent. And where they live is in Simcoe. So there's deep-rooted Underground Railroad that goes through Simcoe that is just deep-rooted in racism. When we stepped in, not only did we asked the school to provide a protection plan for this little girl, because she clearly needs protection. Yeah. They couldn't do it. What we did, I said, well, if our parents are going to keep her home, I know you're still getting government funding money for this little girl. So we're either going to give us a refund on the spot, or we could still even get that refund, but we're getting that money back because it's our money. I will say is what they did with that little girl, they not only did she stay home for 6 months, they provided her a private educator. They provided her all the resources she needs to be successful. Because one of the things is that even though they are used to seeing us as the perpetrators, but not as the victim. So the minute you force them and say to them, see us as victims, it looks different. They're baffled. They know very quickly how to provide the discipline and the suspension. I will go over this. So this is the steps. So you call parents of black children, here are the steps. There's an intake. You call, email, we have an intake online form, you fill it out. Someone gets back to you, because we know the minute you reach out to POBC, we see it as a 911 call. We know it's an emergency. We have yet to meet a family who come to us based on their first experience. Most families try to advocate on their own. Most families try to have a discussion. We're civilized people. Why wouldn't we have a discussion? The next step, we'll contact you, we'll do an interview to try and get more details, because sometimes the incidences are so traumatizing, the families are not able to articulate it or even put it on paper, because you're reliving that experience. We then, based on what we see, what we have, that discussion, we do a meeting. Here's why we do a meeting. I'll say this, disclaimer. Most times I don't care to do a meeting. I already know what we're going to do and how we're going to hold them accountable. But here's why we do a meeting. And I do a meeting every single time because I think the parents deserve a right to meet and have a discussion with the leaders of that school board and see and have them give them an opportunity to make things right. Based on that meeting, we have that meeting, we send our letters out. Oftentimes they try to find our letters very, they'll say they find our letters very offensive, because we are very, very deliberate in the words that we say in our letter. I am not asking you to meet. I am letting you know our children experience, this child experience anti-black racism, this child experience differential treatment, neglect, abuse, whatever it is. We don't give them the details in the letter. We would like to meet. Let us know within a couple of days. We give them a date. When can we meet? We're not asking. And my thought process on the whole not asking, ever since I saw the lynching of George Floyd and how that man begged and pleaded for his life, I said I will never in this life ever again ask white folks to give me my dignity. I am human. And you're gonna, I don't care if you like me, but you're gonna respect me. And I'm gonna make you respect me, and I'm gonna make you respect our babies. I don't care if they're 5 or they're 55. You're going to respect us because this is who we are. We built this. Sorry, I was going to say something else. My therapy would have liked, but we built this. The next step is we review the case. So we armed our parents with a lot. What I've seen parents transform. I've seen parents get their voices back when we have those meetings. I've seen parents realize, Janine, I don't have to just follow. I said no. Anytime they present one of those policies or rules in front of you, ask them, who was that for? Who was that created for? Who is that protecting? Who is that oppressing? Because believe you me, it does. It was built for one person in mind and one person only, or one group of people. So depending on how the case goes, sometimes we are able to get resolution on the calls. But what our families get in that moment is they realize when you meet parents of black children and our friends, because we have many friends that does this work too, you and your child will never have to go through that education journey alone. I want to give you a story about this case that I always think about this case, and it's still going on. Halton, grade 7 boy, being bullied by a group of white boys, and one of those white boys created a cool kids club with every letter starting with K. So he was creative, that little boy. So it's KKKK. That's what he calls it. And then he calls himself, he self-proclaimed himself as the Grand Wizard. So the master of the KKK. And he and his friends terrorize this little boy on the school bus. And every time the parents will try and step in, they'll try and do different things to try and, as if the little boy who got in trouble, who is being bullied, is the one that's the problem. Do you know, we met with the school board and we said, tell me why these little boys are able, actually I didn't say little boys, let me correct that. Why these racist thugs are still in your school? Because I know, and you all know, if that was a group, or even one black boy, let's just say a black girl that started any type of club that was hating on anyone else, they would be out, not only of that school, but that school board and any school within that board. But these little boys were still able to go to school. Why? They're from a neighborhood where their parents got money. So we had no other choice but to arm the family with legal support. So there's a lawsuit going on. And when we sue, we're not just suing the school board and the school, we're suing the individuals. Because this is why we meet. So when we meet with you, we give you an opportunity to correct the wrong. So if you don't correct the wrong, we're going to hold you accountable for everyone on that call who did nothing, which means you're now complicit in the harming of our child. And it's racial violence that our children are experiencing. When we talk about accountability, we report everyone and we hold everyone accountable through legal. Let me tell you what I mean by that. We have a group of civil lawyers who work on contingency, and we tend to try and have them vet the cases first to see if we're going civil. If they say we think you will be better suited in human rights, we go human rights. Here's why this works for POBC on so many levels. A lot of our families, we get to see and get to hear how many wins our families are having. And they're getting unprecedented amounts of money and settlement and just their dignity back. They're just being able to be seen and realize that I don't have to take this and I could use this wherever I go. We also report educators to the Ontario College of Teachers. We also report, so all educators can be reported to the Ontario College of Teachers. And let me say this to everyone here. We're not only seeing this in the Catholic or the public board, we're seeing it in private schools, we're seeing it in universities. One mom said to me, I thought it would stop. I said, unless you go back to the continent or the Caribbean, the racist practices will never stop. It is what it is. It's an economy, it's a system. The gentleman said it's like, oh, you're supposed to have, go to school, get this. No, there's many ways in which you could do this. So for our families, For us, the legal is very, very important because what we're doing, we're setting precedents. These are public information. Anyone could go search and find this information and see who these people are that we held accountable. And let's just face it, we also get people fired. We're calling for resignation. Either you're gonna leave on your own, following your story, I don't care. Just do not educate our children and do not, like I remember this one family, I remember this Brampton, this woman told the mother, 6 years old, she couldn't bring her child to this school. She had to go to another school. This is literally streaming the child. And why? She heard the mom's accent and thought the mom was uneducated. And the mom, her white friend said to her, what do you mean you have to go to the ministry to get approval? The ministry said to her, you don't have to come to us, you could just go registered. But the secretary said to her, this is not a school for you. They literally had who they wanted to. They're a public school board. The minute we call or we go in, the child was in school the next day. So you know these things are deliberate, they're set up, they're intentional. They're intentional. If your child have any needs, if your child have, I don't know, they are on the autism spectrum, have any kind of disability, we see it the worst. I had a mom drop her child off at 9 and she couldn't go home because they told her, just in case he has a seizure, we need you to stay in the parking lot. The minute we stepped in, when I tell you the red carpet rolled out, the red carpet rolled out for this mother. She could not believe how badly they were treating her and her child. Because I said, it's unheard of. I said, do you know how much funding they get when your child has needs? And the fact that they're telling you to stay outside, they already got extra money for him to be there. But again, they bank on families not knowing this. So when families reach out and we come, they know when families come with us, we're coming with knowledge, we're coming with experiences, and we're coming with support. To go out, I think we're good. We're going with support. So sorry, I know I talk a lot. I get very passionate about this. If any of you have experiences, I know Jasana's going to be around for a while. We're going to be around for a while. You could get our information so you could reach out. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer one or two. Oh, sorry, yes, okay, go ahead. Maybe I'll come with the mic so the online people can hear.
But I'm glad to be here. I'm learning more than I think the youth here. And I know I've spoken to some people here that are newcomers, and you're probably feeling this, you have this feeling of I've landed and everything is going to be a bed of roses. My child is going to stay here and have a Canadian education, but you don't think that these things actually happen. I'm that parent that hates throwing around the black child card. I know when I was raising my kids, I always said, don't go into these things. And they say, oh, because I'm black. Are you doing this to me because I'm black? But let me tell you, these things happen for real. We've been in touch because of my other child. And I faced this for real. And I pushed off the help because I don't want to throw the black child card out there. I always tried to train them to be just like any other kid. But however much you like it, that black card comes out. So when you have help like this, for those of you who are new here, or you haven't brought your children yet from wherever you're immigrating from, prepare, and pay attention because these things happen. I know I had a question for you. I wanted to ask about the stereotypes. How do we prepare the children for the stereotypes? I have situations where I know my child, especially this one, Simona. Let me tell you people, this is a good child. I brought her up well, I know, but it's not me, God has. I had one particular incident When the school called me, Simone, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for your permission to share this. One time, when she was still in grade school, the school called me and accused her of something that I knew and I could swear my child cannot do that. They said, oh, she did this, and I could hear her cry at the background. She said, Mom, it's not true, I didn't do it. And I knew she didn't do it. I stood my ground and I told them, I need you to produce the proof that she did this. This was like 8 girls, Mona, you know what I'm talking about. 8 girls had done something during the break and had accused her of being the leader of the misbehavior. I told them, I need this, I need the proof to this. This is my child you're talking about. This can go in record that she did this. At the end, it turns out she stopped me from using the names, what. It's not a racist card. And when I said I want the proof, they all apologized that they had just put her at the forefront because they knew she would take the bigger punishment. And I asked them to call the parents to have this removed from my child's record that she had done this, because I knew, because I know her, I knew she would not do that. So I'm saying this to tell you that you, as a newcomer, or you haven't had kids yet, you might think that the things we're discussing here are far-fetched, but they are reality. So when you have the help, take the help. I know that I called you about an issue to do with my son, but because of what I'm telling you, that I didn't want to throw the black child card there, I pushed off the help. Right now, as we stand, I'm going to look for you because I wish I had taken that help. Thank you.
Humane treatment, one of the things that they did to us was the conditioning of our minds. We use the black card because we experience racism. So I say it off the bat. I don't let them tell me. When I go in meetings, I tell them every day, all day, I am here because I am angry. They don't get to tell me I'm an angry black woman. My therapist will say, anger is a natural reaction. And they always go from, anger is the first thing, but there's many other emotions you could be feeling. It could be anxiety, it could be your trauma response. That is our trauma response. When it comes to the stereotyping, I say we got to tell our children everything and be honest. And I tell this to parents, do not think you're shielding your children, and I'm guilty of this. When my daughter was called the N-word in grade 4, I didn't even teach her about the N-word yet. I thought I had time. Be honest with your children and tell them. This society has socialized us to assimilate and not be a victim, especially black women. And our black men are kings, when, don't show weaknesses. But what if what you're doing to me is hurting me? How do I not show that? That's not even a natural reaction. And they don't get to inflict racial harm on us and then police our reaction to it. It's actually in the Human Rights Code. It says, so when you experience racism, no one could tell you experiencing it, because sometimes it's just a feeling that you have, and you know it. You know when you walk in, you could feel it. If you've experienced it, you could feel it. So the Human Rights Code actually goes and says, if I believe I have experienced racism, I have a right to vigorously defend myself. I don't need you to validate my racist experiences. I don't need you to do that. You would never do that to a sexual assault victim. So when it comes to the stereotyping and that story, that painful story that you share, I want you to know, even for your daughter, it is so common. But parents, if you're not parents yet, when your child come home and share with you, I know we're strict people and we're strict with our children. It's just who we are. We want the best for them. But there's a way to do it. Believe your child when they come home and share. That's the first and foremost thing. When my little guy was younger and he was in elementary school, they would tell me about him. And I'm going to say, the child you described to me, I've never met. I have never met. I said, are you telling me he's Superman? I drop him off at, what's the thing, Ken Clark? Clark Kent? and he just transformed. I said, that doesn't even make sense. If I take him to church and tell them what you say, they'll say, I've never met this child. You know your child. So believe your child. And I tell I have a 14-year-old now, and I say to him, I'll believe everything you say to me. Especially in front of them. When we go home, we could talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm your lawyer, I'm your advocate, I'm your everything, and I'm going to defend you to the nth degree. You see what's happening in the U.S. This man could do and say anything he wants, and they still defend him. Listen, we have to believe our children and be honest with who they are and tell them. No, you have a question, right? You still have a question? Sorry. Oh, she did. Okay.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for this. Is really, we call it a blessing to be here and to have you here, because every person who has a kid and they use themselves who are here, they truly need to know this, that there are some people there who can advocate for them, who can stand there and hear their voices and be strong and focus on their goal, not to be discriminated. So this is the question. I'm going to elaborate the example. Okay, if you, for example, my daughter, my son comes home and tells me that, Mommy, this is what's happening. Because I've been advocating for my kid from I think when they're in my belly. Always. So my daughter, when she was in the elementary, as I stepped in the school, they were shaking, and then this one here, I go there and say, are you from the ministry? No, I'm not from the ministry. I'm here to speak to the principal. So I left them shaking, but I say, I'm over there to advocate for my kid. So if he comes and tells you, Mommy, okay, this is what the teacher tells me. And then I go there and talk to the teacher or to the principal what is exactly the teacher told the kid. And then the kid said, oh, Mommy, okay, if I don't see anything, they prove me that, okay, they're going to settle it. And then it happened again. And then the kid came back and he said, no, Mommy, I wasn't treated fair. Remember, I told you this, nothing has been done. Now I'm telling you this, they didn't solve it for the first time. How you go there, I'm going to be labeled, that I'm going to be hated. How do you reassure that our youth, if they see anything, well, we went to to higher level, a report, nothing has been done. This to me is preventing them to come to report us again because the other one wasn't solved at all. So how can you reassure them, and how can you help the parents also to go forward to fight for the kids to get this resolution? Thank you so much.
Perfect question, especially for today. I would say, I said it before, believe your child, believe your children when they say anything. However, keep notes. Diarize everything, summarize everything, and in your own way. However, any emails you send to the school, if it's about the teacher, I mean, again, there's levels to it. If you want to be able to form that relationship, you try and have that meeting with the teacher. If nothing happens, you go to the admin, and if not the admin, the superintendent and the director of education. So I'm a firm believer, no leader should say they don't know what's going on. So even when we send our letter to have our meeting, we make sure the directors are involved. Here's why you send an email. And when you send an email, sometimes you'll probably notice they'll call you. You send an email because everything that you send on the server, that you send on the school, stays on the record for 10 years. It stays at the ministry for 55 years. Here's why this is crucial, you all. As parents, you could request a freedom of information. Freedom of information. Let me tell you what that is. It costs you $5 to request this information. You could do it with any government agency. And what you want to find out, you give your child's name and your name. Because what you're, with the freedom of information, you're requesting information for if a child has been there for 10 years, the last 10 years, they could go back that far. And you get every email, every memo. You ask for the principal notes, the vice principal notes, because they keep separate notes. So they have that. They can't erase it. And legally, they have to give it to you. It's a privacy matter. There's the Ontario Privacy Act and so on and so forth. So it's there because what you get to see when you request that, I have to warn you all, is how they speak about you when they know you're not in the room. So that's how I would say with that. So you send emails, make sure, and when they call you, please, when they call you after you've emailed them, because the ones who know will do this. When you hang up that phone, send them an email. Just want to make sure I didn't misinterpret anything you said. Here's what we discussed, because you're keeping a record of it. Because to your son's point, what we are seeing is black children are experiencing racial violence, bullying, racial bullying. But when they go and complain, nothing is being done. And when they retaliate, their actions are now on trial. And I want to give you 3 things to look out for, 3 gems, I guess, in a sense. For the high school student, and I always forget to share this, I want to make sure I share this. If you don't know about this, there's what's called exam review day at high school, 2000 high school, which is the day that you go as parents. Black folks rarely shows up for this. Some of them rarely shows up for it. But here's why you want to go. It's the day that you could actually go and negotiate your child's mark. It's legal. There's nothing wrong with it. And for all the parents who say, I want my child to earn every single mark, I promise you there's times when your child deserves a mark that they never got. They lower the mark. Because sometimes it's subjective. And they don't get the mark that they're supposed to get. Right? So make sure we all show up. And because they could round it up. I know educators who have said to us many times, sometimes white folks shows up and they show up with their lawyer because they want their 50 to turn into a 70. And we're not even asking for that. We're asking for the 79 to be an 80. Right? The other piece I want you all to know, there seems to be this trend going around, and I only say that because of all the calls we're getting, where non-black kids are asking white kids for the N-word pass. And they're getting creative, guys. The N-word pass meaning, like I know in TikTok there was a challenge, if you say the word swagger, it repeats the N-word. We had to have that removed. But they're going around asking our children, and our children are the ones that are saying, well, I could say it because I'm black, and they're getting in trouble. Right? So, and so that's crucial that I just want you to be aware, and be aware that your children will come home with the experiences that they have. Don't be afraid to tell them what it is that they're experiencing, because if the minute they know, they'll know how to advocate for themselves. And tell them how to advocate for themselves, because they can do it as well. And there's no such thing as respectful advocacy. Advocacy is supposed to be disruptive.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I think we should also talk about the importance of parents. As you said, just being born black, there's already a stigmatization the moment your child goes into the school. So I think we should talk about the importance of parents making sure you're very present and involved in your child's education. So that way the teachers know, like, oh, this one, the mother and the father, they know what's happening. So when the teachers, I feel, when they know that this parent is really involved in this child's life, they're a bit more less likely, I feel, to act in a certain manner that they do when they assume that, oh, this child is not going to tell their parents. So I think it's really important for us to teach our kids to report what you saw. Come tell me at home, because a lot of our children sometimes, when things happen at school, the teachers will normalize it. I've had experiences where, my younger sibling, Caucasian child will step on her lunchbox prior to lunch. She'll report it to the teacher, and the teacher will say, oh, boys will be boys. But if the situation was reversed, we would definitely be getting a phone call saying, oh, Hannah, stepped on somebody's lunch and they were not able to eat because and this, and this causes this child not to be able to focus in class. And what you said again, documenting those incidences when you communicate with a class teacher or whoever you speak to is really important. So I lost my train of thought. Pregnant brain.
Getting parents involved.
Yes. So parents, please make sure you're really involved in your child's. If your child comes and tells you something, this happened at school, call the next day. Don't let it sit and simmer. Call the next day so the teachers know, oh, she goes home and tells her parents what is happening here. So that way they know that there's a second I am working on board. This is circling back to what I wanted to talk about is A lot of us also, when you send your children to high school, sometimes the guidance counselors who you're, right? Sometimes the guidance counselors who are there to help your child progress or come up with their career plan, they've kind of become a hindrance in a lot of our children that are African descent. So I wanted you to kind of shed some light on guidance counselors and
So, because I know sometimes our children keep stuff from us because they know they're going to get in trouble, but let them know, create that safe place, encourage them to do that. I cannot begin to tell you the stories we hear after the fact, right? Because they didn't create that. And Brenda's right about, if they know you're involved, they do move differently. But there's another way, sometimes they weaponize it as well, and they try to do the isolation with you as well and punish you for speaking up. Like, for speaking up. So I usually, to be honest, every start of every school year, I send a letter telling them about my child. I said, this is who you're getting to you. You're getting my king, my queen. This is who you're getting. They're black. They're gonna make mistakes, and I need you to correct them with empathy, love, and equity. I send that letter every time because they don't know our babies. We tell them who our babies are, right, and who we want our babies to be. And I have dreams for my child. So back to the guidance counselor piece. The guidance counselor, I have a love-hate relationship, I'll be honest, because what they're supposed to do, they don't do. This is where your child will go in, or you will go in, and you have career goals, and they'll try and tell your child what they think they should be. We have a lawsuit right now with a family who, the little boy went in and told them what he wanted to be, and they scratched it out and said, oh, you're going to be a manager of a gym. I'm sorry, what is happening? Who says this to a child? So the guidance counselor, you have to be involved in your child, picking up your child's course, because this is where they stream your child. And when I say they stream your child into lesser than, so they don't have the support to go to university. They do it in French immersion. If you have kids in French immersion, they do it as well, where they'll say things like, oh, they don't need to take French right now. But you don't get to dictate my child's future. I get to do that. So as parents, you need to be completely involved in that process and know that it is streaming, it is illegal, because put my child in all university course, whether they could do it or not, and provide them with support. Because they could do that. They could do that. They have funding. They could do that. We could provide tutoring, because every child should have that opportunity. The sky's the limit, right? So even if there is a limit to the sky, but every child should have that opportunity, and no one outside of their household should do that to them. And it happens. Oh, okay.
Not really a question, but a comment, because the lady over there had said race card. So I wanted to pick up on the comment that you made about the race card, which is I think it's very important that we understand how white supremacy works. It shows up differently for different people. To maybe continental Africans, it shows up as colonialism. Maybe here it shows up as systemic racism, but it's showing up, and it always shows up. And because we as black people want to train our children to be strong and resilient, right? But racism is there and it's violent, right? And we shouldn't want to train them to be resilient through trauma, right? We want to train them to address that trauma, not train them to say when racism happens, we don't want to pull the race card. That's what white supremacy has taught us, because the power of white supremacy is the insidious nature in which it shows up. It works mysteriously in the background, controlling things and training us to believe that we are the problem for pointing out the racism that exists. Right? So we should be telling our children every single time we experience racism, we should face it head on and don't be embarrassed that, we're playing the race card or any of these things. Like they've done such a good job at making us believe that, if we even say anything about it, we gotta be embarrassed or whatever. No, they came up with this system and we've got to try and fight through it. So trauma is not something where we teach our children to be resilient through. This is 2024. We understand mental health and its effect on our society and our families, and we got to build our children up. So I just wanted to comment on that. So.
No, thank you for sharing that. No one gets to abuse us, assault us, and then shame us into speaking out about it. And that's what racism does. It's the treatment that your child experienced at school will be extremely violent. Because I promise you, it's not if they're going to experience racism, it's how many times per day. Think about that. How many times per day? And your child, because let's just face it, they know who we are. We're of African descent. They know this, and they know we're supposed to be very strong people. They know we're resilient, but our ability to be resilient is not a cure for racism.
I wasn't going to say too much because we're short on time, but I also wanted to give the perspective. So I was born here. I grew up in the Canadian education system, and being someone that's received it firsthand, I recognize the shortcomings. And I've tried my best, especially as I got into high school and I got into leadership positions and I really asserted myself in those positions. I've tried my best to do my part in terms of, speaking on behalf of those who can't. But one thing that I've noticed is, and I think I've been told this before, but I have to work twice as hard to get half of what they have. And that's one thing that I've noticed in this system, especially back then before people actually started educating themselves more on this topic. That was really the reality. And I remember being in like grade 4, grade 5, entering middle school and having those pressures put on me. I was in a grade 4 class, French, extended French, and the teacher was trying to give all the black students grade 2 math classes because they thought that that's where we were supposed to be. From that point, I recognized, okay, this is going to be something where I have to prove myself in these spaces in order to, be able to put in that same place as my peers, my white peers, my other peers. When I got to high school, I did this program called International Baccalaureate, which is not the Canadian curriculum, but it's more of an international curriculum, so Sweden, UK. And it's a program where you have to do a standardized test to get in, you have to do an interview, and it's provided by public schools as well. But it's deemed as prestigious because you're doing university courses in high school. And from the jump, entering that program, I realized that this is really going to be a place where I have to fight for myself. And it came with struggles. At some point, I really felt like I wasn't going to pass, and I thought I was going to drop out. And I was being encouraged to drop out, actually, by my teachers, until my mom stepped in, until she came and told them that she might be struggling now, but just because she's struggling now doesn't mean she can't pass, doesn't mean she can't succeed. We started off with 60 students in the cohort. We ended off with 20, and I was one of the 20. So, all this to say, my question is, you talk a lot about, parents of black children, what we as parents can do. But what can we as the children in question do to support ourselves in a system that's so often trying to fight against us?
You're so powerful.
I swear.
I love you. I might take her home with me. I want to say this. Because I know that I think there's some Cameroonians in here, there's some that speaks French. I want you to know this piece before I answer your question. I'm glad you brought it up because it made me remember this. So at the Ministry of Education, there's a group of countries that, this is where the racism starts. There's a group of countries that if your parents are from that country, they automatically put the child in a lower level of French program, like the French-speaking countries. The reason why I know this, We had a group of families from Ottawa, got their child report card, and in Ottawa they were going to CEPIO. I'm not going to say it right. My kids speak French, but I don't. CEPIO, where they were in the ALF and PANA program. Parents had no idea because they had to sign off on. The reason why that's crucial is because every child that's in that program, the school gets about an extra $7,000. So there's a lot of money behind it. So what they have done, they have put hundreds of black children in that program. And what it is, it's like, if you know the English system, it's ESL. It's like, so it's ESL for French. And so when the family saw this, they reached out to us. There was a Global Mail media report about it, and there's this massive lawsuit going on in this investigation that's happening. I can't wait for it to be public for everyone to hear about it, because what that does is that the French board for years have been ripping off the government by putting our children in this program, and they're not providing support. So as children that are in the system every single day, I would say go home and tell your parents. I would say also document everything. You're in a program and you are struggling, and they're coming over to you and encouraging you to drop out, or encouraging you in other ways and try to tell you why you shouldn't. I have yet to meet anybody that's my age anyway. Maybe there's others that I maybe didn't have this experience, who weren't told when they were growing up in this country, myself, my husband included, that they need to go to college and not university. It was just something that teachers say to us. If they're coming to you, they are supposed to show you a success plan. So in your case, you are struggling, let's just say. They were supposed to create a success plan for you. And when that didn't work, they come up with another one. They are supposed to do and put systems in place to help you succeed, not to encourage you to leave. But that's what's the easiest thing to do, and that's what they do. Other things you could do, find others like you. It's very isolating. My husband was in the AB program, the gifted program. It's very isolating being in those programs, and they make you feel that way. The fact that you're in those programs and you're one, they're supposed to be rolling out the red carpet and make it as comfortable for you as possible. But isolation is a form of mental abuse. So when they isolate you and make you feel less than, and make you feel like you're an imposter, is how they win. And I would say, find somebody, whether it's a group, and it's hard to say whether it's a group, it's not your parents, your auntie, whoever you can. Our group, there are so many groups like us that are doing this work, and that are out here advocating for their nieces and nephews that they've never met. There's so many of us. So there is support. The most powerful thing you could do as a youth is write an email. You send an email to the director, to the Minister of Education, and CC a media, or CC us, and you would get the traction that it would get. It would be unbelievable, because they're not used to us speaking up. I'm seeing it a lot in university students now who are, I make the joke and say they're coming back to save their younger selves because of what they went through. But it also happens in university. But just like every other abuse, racism thrives in isolation and when you're secret about it and no one knows about it. That's how they win. But if you speak up and you call them out and call them on the carpet, it looks different, because you'll get that support. I know we're over time. I know I don't know if there's any other questions, but thank you all for listening.
Wow. Wasn't that amazing? Yeah? Did we all learn something?
Yes.
Amazing. So next up, I would love to invite Hannah Chevy back to the stage to give us a short musical presentation. All right, amazing. So let's welcome Hannah back to the stage. Amazing. Let's give Hannah one more round of applause. Beautiful. So we have another speaker coming up next, and our next speaker is Huda Abu Zaid. So Huda Abu Zaid is from World System Builders and is a seasoned financial educator and strategist with extensive experience in helping
families and individuals navigate the financial landscape. Huda specializes in everything from saving and estate planning to investments, education planning, debt management, retirement planning, and wealth management. She is truly an expert in guiding others towards financial success and security. So let's welcome Huda to the stage.
It is possible for me to be here today. And Cyril, I don't know where he is. I have to say to Cyril, welcome. Bienvenue au Canada. This is the system when you come here. We go through so much, but that makes who we are resilient and strong. And I always say that I'm so proud that I was born in Africa. And I find that our culture actually grounds us big time. So, and I know some of our kids that were born here in Canada, you still have that in the household. Hold on to that culture. It makes who you are as a child growing up here in Canada as well. And Charlene, I mean, with her presentation, it stirred up so many emotions. I have two of my kids were born in Canada. My oldest is 35 years old, went through the Canadian school system. And my younger one is 20. And when I saw her, I'm like, wait a minute, she's in the cadet, but my son is, like you say, which one do you prefer? Who is more committed, the pig or the chicken? So the funny thing is, my younger son went from high school, went to Humber College, did the fire services, wanted to become a firefighter, but then he felt he was too young, might not get the experience, and guess what did he do? He went into the Canadian Armed Forces. So he is now in the military, Hannah. So he's posted in Shearwater, in Nova Scotia. He's only 20 years old. But I said this is his life. He wanted to plan it that way. All I could do is to support him as well. So I guess, I don't know what you said about my expertise when it came to money, but let me see. What I can say. I know, Sarah, you missed what I said. I said, bienvenue au Canada, Tel Aviv, okay? But you're doing very well. We're so proud of you and everybody as well. So I am here to talk about financial literacy strategies for parents and youth. And this was prepared specifically with love for the convention today. So that's what I did, and I hope I know how to use this clicker. The one in the middle, the one at the top.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, I see that the Afro-Canada Development Foundation is very, very smart organization. And why? I will tell you, November is Financial Literacy Month, supposedly here in Canada. I don't know how many people know of that, but it's very interesting that Financial Literacy Month, November, how many people know of that? Sometimes very, very few people know about this particular information. So, and the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada is the organization that is leading this so-called Financial Literacy Month. And the theme for this year actually is money on your mind. Talk about it. Okay? So we know that when it comes to finance, it's a taboo. Nobody want to talk about money. Nobody want to show that they're struggling. Everybody sees that it is a bed of roses, as I heard the phrase here today from the mom and some of the speakers as well. But it's very, very important that people worry about finances, worry about debt. And sometimes they also worry about so many things when it comes to money. Everything is tied up to money. The way we are being treated as an African community, as a black community anywhere, because sometimes it comes to finances, comes to resources. So when you don't have the money, sometimes you shy away from taking charge of certain things or embarking on fighting certain issues. And I've always say to people, I mean, I live in the city of Toronto for the past
35 years I've been in Canada. Very rare you will see that majority of the people that you see get shot or get hurt are mainly black people. And you never see other races go through the same. Why? Because if they dare to do that with other races, their families will hire the top lawyers to fight that. But we shy away because we don't have the resources as well. And we have the right to be able to understand how money works and how we can build wealth for ourselves. We don't have to come up with some money to make money, because this is North America. You work hard, you work smart, you can actually make the money and move on with your life as well. Now, again, people get worried about being judged for being poor or whatever. However, when you have a good financial money sense and literacy, it actually builds confidence in you. Definitely when you have that as well. And it will also lead to a better financial outcomes whenever we have the enough resources for ourselves. And this is so true to so many people, especially to women as well. Okay? So we have to remember that. So, when it comes to finances, there are so many basic things we may have to do. For example, simpler things maybe. And by the way, financial literacy, financial education is a very boring topic. Nobody want to talk about it. People will plan a party for months and for years. But when it comes to money, people just brush it under the table, 5 minutes. But yet, it's the source of everything. Or somebody say, oh, money is a source of evil. Or money does not bring happiness. Well, give me the money, I'll tell you where you can find happiness. So, I mean, there are so many things that we have to be aware of as well. Banking system, what do we know about banking system in Canada? Not that much, you know. People sometimes, they kind of worry about it. So this is just a basic statistic that tells you about, I did that presentation, now I can't see because I'm not wearing my glasses. Just kidding, but I'll try to wing it anyway. So what I'm trying to say that we had in 2008, many people perhaps were just babies or not even born yet. We had a financial crisis all over the world. And then we recently had COVID as well. So that made a big challenges for so many people. However, researchers say that lack of financial literacy can lead to so many disasters and so many chaos as well. They say that when it comes to statistics, can you believe that Canada ranked, they said, number 4 when it comes to financial literacy with a rate of 68, and we are so-called tied up with Israel in that ranking. But other European nations, 3 of them, Sweden, Denmark, they say they're top number 1 because they teach financial literacy in their schools. Funny enough, also in Canada here, I see that British Columbia has curriculum for their kids when it comes to financial literacy. They almost start them from grade 7. But I don't think we have that here in Ontario. You can attest to that. So my son, schools actually call me sometimes to come and talk to high school who are graduating from high school going into university and colleges. And it's almost kind of late a stage, but it's something better than nothing. So again, we need to start them early. As families as well, we really need to normalize conversation when it comes to finance with our children. We provide for our kids, we provide everything in the home, but we never tell our kids how did we come up with this type of money, or where did the money come from to pay for the rent maybe, or to pay for the mortgage, or to pay for their extracurriculum activities and so. They say that it takes about over $250,000 to raise a child from 0 to age 18. This is just room and board. And of course that number has gone up to closer to $500,000 given the financial challenges that people are going through nowadays and so. So this is basically what is happening when it comes to finances, and we need to be important. It tells you that 4 in 7 people in North America are financially literate. Only about 24% millennials have financial literacy as well. So these were some stats. You can check it out. You can take note of that and read more about it. And please make it a habit to be able to understand how money works. Make it part of your daily living, part of what happens around the world as well. So I just want to share with the group today about 10 points on through our conversation today that will help us understand some basics of money, and how money works and so. Basic, simple things, budgeting. We need to be able to understand how to budget, basically. Budgeting, they said, is a vital skills in managing our finances efficiently, by the way. So simple things, but may not leave anything in your mind. However, understand your income. How much money are you bringing from whatever source, whether you're a student, whether you're working full-time, whatever. You need to understand where that money is coming from, what you're bringing in as well. You also need to be able to track your expenses. What am I spending out there? And also I need to be able to categorize my expenses as well. So when I mean by categorizing expenses, so what does that basically mean for you when I say categorizing your expenses and so on? So you need to divide your expenses, basically, they said, in different categories. What are the needs? What are the essential needs that I need to spend my money on? What are some of the wants that I need to have? So discretionary money that I will need to have somewhere around there. Again, why should you do that? It basically helps you identify basically what you can cut back, because believe you me, I know Charlene was talking about documenting, and so documentation is very important. When you take a pen and a paper, when it comes to your money, you'll be able to understand and see a big picture. Well, how much am I bringing in? How much is going out? What are the unnecessary areas that I don't need to? Because sometimes you have to be able to distinguish between the needs and the wants as well when it comes to your money. And again, when you have a budget, by the way, you can monitor, you can adjust as well. And there are a number of budgeting tools you can use, especially nowadays. A lot of people like to use things online. It could just be a simple spreadsheet that you write down as well how money works as well. And by the way, money information is in abundance. You have TV, you have internet, you have newspapers, you have books. So there's so much information, but people are always lost when it comes to money. So the key is, please, find someone, attend information sessions or workshops to understand how money works. You have people like me, there are very few. We not necessarily charge you when we sit down with you to give you financial education, but we hope that when we educate you, we expect you to implement something to help yourself. And many of us are actually licensed individuals, because for you to provide financial information, financial services, you have to be licensed by the government of your territory. So I am licensed in the province of Ontario, and I do have licenses in other parts of Canada as well, that I can help people from those other provinces of Canada as well. So savings and emergency funds, very important. So sometimes people say, oh, my emergency fund is my credit card. Well, that's a challenge when it comes to something like that. So they say that save between at least 3 to 6 months worth of your living expense. So which means that if, for example, you have your budget, you're bringing in maybe whatever amount of money, less for $1,000 you have every month, and you know how much goes into your rent, how much goes into your other expenses, then the idea is you need to save 3 to 6 months, which means if you have 1,000 that is your expenses, it means that you have to have 3,000 or 6,000 set aside. Now you go like, oh my goodness, how am I going to come up with 3,000 or leave alone 6,000? So there are ways to do it. See, there's a way, there's always a way basically to do it if you are interested in doing things for yourself as well. Understanding credit. Canada evolved around credit. Where we come from, like I come from, by the way, Cyril, I have to say something. You talked about soccer, okay, earlier. I have to bring that. That was just eating me. I'm actually from South Sudan, so I'm the champion of basketball. So something to brag about, okay? So that's what I just wanted to share with Cyril this morning. Okay, basketball, okay? So when I was in South Sudan, basically, when you save your money to buy something that you want, you don't just go and use credit. And it's funny enough, recently I saw one lady from Uganda. She said, oh, they call us poor people in Africa. But I said, she lived in Sweden. She said, well, people here live on credit. He said, back home in Uganda, we pay cash for our home. We buy cash for everything that if you don't have the money, you don't get it. Otherwise, you save for it. So, and they call us poor. In the Western world, people do credit. You know, everything is by credit. Anything that you buy, you borrow money for it. And guess what? I'm not dissing our banking system. Our banking system have only one service to give you. They give you debt. All right? So you have to be very, very careful. And again, banks are not bad. You are told, go to school, study, get the education, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become whatever. Guess what? Our parents, again, don't tell us, create or come out with a career that of your choice will support you. And on top of that, they tell you, okay, work for somebody, okay, which is not bad, fine. I'm not dissing job or anything. I did that as well. And if you think you want to become an actor or you want to become, you know, like my son is in the military now. If back home you say, I want to go into the army, why do you want to go into the military? You know? So, because we understand it differently. The system there is quite different, unlike here. So I'm a very, very proud mother nowadays. Once I understood how the Canadian Armed Forces work as well, I'm encouraging newcomers specifically. Please explore a career in the armed forces, by the way. Okay? So it's an option available to you. You come out, you're well respected, and you can do so much through the Canadian Armed Forces. There's so many professions, so many careers you can actually undertake for yourself as well. So remember to do all of those things. So make sure that you understand how credit works, because sometimes I went through a lot of mistakes when I came here. I used credit card. I said, okay, I'll pay you tomorrow. These people don't wait. You're supposed to pay at a specific time. You pay it. If you don't pay this, there's something called a credit bureau. They will collect data about you. So I learned the hard way, but I'm so happy and so glad that I learned so much about financial literacy, financial education. So I'm trying to share with so many people. Please understand those basic things. They're smaller things, but they make a difference basically in your life. Banking fundamentals, understand checking and savings account. A lot of people today, how many people know how to write a check? Okay, I've seen younger people don't know how to write a check. Yeah, maybe people nowadays, they just use e-transfer and stuff like that. But sometimes these are basics, maybe, how do you call it, like, all the ways of doing, yeah, people do online bank and stuff like that. But you see, because now the banks, guess what? Thank you for saying online here, because the banks, by the way, they have a motto behind that no money left behind, because they want to get you in any way or shape. You used to go to the bank to do your banking services. Now they want to get you, it's like a rat. A rat will eat you. If you move, it will blow air so that you don't feel the pain, it continue eating you. So what they're trying basically, like they make it easy for you. They will come to you almost, and that's through your computer at home, and you're so excited. And nowadays I see people use their phone. It's like, okay, it sounds fun, but you have to be careful. Just step back. I know it's easy said than done, but once you have a budget, you'll be more smarter on how to manage your money and how to do things. That's all I wanted you to make sure to understand how the banking things work, and also smart spending. Need, as I said earlier, versus wants. The most common method people use, like they say 50, 30, 20. But I've seen online nowadays people have different models depending on the income and stuff like that. All you have to do, for example, maybe from the money that you make, 50% can go into your needs, 30% can go for your wants, 20% for your saving and debt repayment. So you have to start thinking about so many things in your life. Yes, you may be 18 today, 20 today, and guess what? 18 in Canada, you're legal. Legal person? Adult, yes. Thank you. So you are an adult as well. Another thing that I also have to remind our people as well, you have to do what we call estate planning. And you're like, what does that mean? Basically, once you are 18, you may have your parents, okay? They cannot make decisions for you. And you should not be a fool not to have your parents or your family involved in your affairs. However, you can do it in so many ways because the legal system is okay. You have to give a consent for somebody to be able to do things for you. So you have to do what we call a living will. Okay? so that when you're alive, you have to have what we call a living will. You also have to do what we call a power of attorney as well, and you have to have a will. And somebody will go like, wait a minute, I don't have a lot of money, why do I know that? If you are 18 years old, in Canada in particular, please put your estate plan in place. Regardless, it doesn't have to do with you having money or owning money and stuff like that. Also, when you get sick as well, okay, you want somebody to be the designated person to make medical decisions for you if you are incapacitated. You cannot do those. So you want to make sure that you do that so that your loved one, people who care about you, can actually be able to provide medical consent for you. You discuss it with them, what do you want done with you. Otherwise, the government will decide for you regardless. Okay, so you want to make sure you put those things in writing as well. Your will as well is very important. You may have a specific things that you want to give, whether it's your favorite t-shirt, whatever, to give to your friend. I'm simplifying that. But it's very, very critical, by the way. You have to put those things in place. Learn about how estate planning as well. It doesn't take you that much money. Investing basics as well. The concept of investing, what are the different types of investment? A lot of young people nowadays, they do auto trading online. By the way, if you don't understand the basics of finance, it's not really right for you to jump into those trades and stuff like that. You may think you know it, but if you don't understand the basic foundation, the basic budgeting that I'm sharing here with you today, it defeats the purpose, because you don't want to just go blindly into all of that. Again, not everything is greener on the other side. You have to basically understand those things as well. Debt awareness. Again, danger of high interest. You need to understand that. Credit card debt. Credit card debt never finished. What do they tell you when you go to the bank will give you a credit card? The limit they may give you if you're a student may be $1,000. Other people, they'll give you $2,500. But they tell you just pay $10 back every month. What is $10? Credit card is a revolving debt that keeps on going in and out and off. You never get out of it. Guess what? There is a rule, they call it the rule of 72. I think you knew math at school, right? 72 divided by 20, how much is that? About 3 something, okay? So if you have a credit card, most of them, there are different types of credit card as well. There's type A, there's type B, there's type C. Sometimes you have credit cards that have about 35% interest on them. And guess what? Credit card can actually have 2% on them, but who do they give that credit card to? If you're financially literate, they treat you accordingly. But if you're literate, then you understand where things are, okay? So when you have a debt of $1,000 on your credit card, you're only paying $10 every month. You're only paying the interest, okay? The 2% that you're paying to them from the minimum that you are allowed to give to them as well. So that every 3 years, the rule of 72, you take 72 divided by the interest rate. It will tell you how often your money will double, okay? So if you have an interest rate of 20% of a type A credit card that they give to ordinary to other people, every 3 years your debt will double. 1,000 becomes 2,000, 2,000 becomes 4,000. That's why a lot of people say, I've been paying this, how come it's not going down? Because you need to understand this is specific what they call the rule of 72, okay? So understanding how your debt doubles, and guess what? When you go to the bank and you borrow money, they use what they call a compound interest on you. Compound interest means whatever you owe plus the entire, even if you pay part of it, but let's say your credit card limit is $1,000, but you only use $10,000, $10 from it. Guess what? You're paying interest on $1,000, not on $990. So that's a compound interest, by the way. But when you go to the bank and you save your money, what do? They give you what we call simple interest. Simple interest is coming into new money that you're putting in. If you're putting $20 to your 1,000, that's already there. Now you're it's 1,200. They only give you interest on $20, not on the entire amount. But when it comes to debt, they give you debt on the entire amount interest. So be careful of those specific things for you to be able to understand that, and how you can pay off your balances and so. Banks don't like you, or credit card companies don't like you when you pay your debt off. But it is a necessary evil that you have to have a credit history in this country. So be smart about it, learn how to manage your credit payments So take the credit card because you need to build so-called credit because nobody will give you anything without it. So however, be smart about it. So if you spend it, use it. Also, pay it back right away because you have the money for it, but use it. And when you use it, there are ways also how you can use it because you don't want to take it today and then pay it back again tomorrow. You want the history to kind of sit and gel. They expect you to forget so that they can make interest from you. So please understand how to manage your credit card and your debts as well. What are your financial goals? Basically, you need to understand what are your long-term, short-term goals, maybe vacation or saving, long-term goals, maybe retirement. And now don't tell me that you're 20 years old, you're not thinking about retirement. Please do, okay? So I tell my son, like, we all have to learn the hard way. I came in my 20s to Canada. And of course, retirement is not something that you think about. You're new to a new place, you're totally green, you have no idea how the system works and stuff like that. We make mistakes. So during my time, people used to make mistake of getting in debt with phones. We used to have landlines in the house, so we come here and then we sit on the bed, we're calling back home. Thinking that, and these people are just counting the minutes. Next thing you know, you have to pay the phone company their money, and then you're in trouble, not because you don't have the money. What do you mean I have to pay? So they charge us. So these are a lot of mistakes people made nowadays. Of course, now you have WhatsApp, you have different social media platforms people can use to call, and the world is very, very connected, by the way. And people always say, oh, I'm going to go home and retire. Yes, you're going to go home and retire. How? You know, it's the same. If now we sneeze in North America, people in Uganda and Sudan, South Sudan catch a cold because that's how small the world has become with social media and technology and stuff like that. So you have to be very careful as well. Again, taxes. Understanding taxes is very, very important. You have income tax that you have to pay. You have capital gain tax. You have dividend tax. So there are different types of taxes that you need to understand. We already pay 13% when we go shopping. Some grocery items, you don't pay taxes on them, but others do. You need to understand the basics of taxation as well. What goes? I remember when I came here, they said I should go buy a boot. That was in 1990, okay? So when I went, they told me the boot was like $100, I think. So when I was going to pay, they charged me, they said 115. So I was saying, how come? You know, it was very interesting. So my friend, God bless her soul, she passed away. She said to me, oh no, Huda, you have to pay taxes. I was really shocked. That was my first time ever that you have to pay. It was very obvious the tax I had to pay. So I learned the hard way anyway, but we learn, okay? Make sure that you understand that when you have a paid slip that they give you in the office, please make sure you understand how your pay stub actually looks like, what deduction they take from you, and how can you manage for them not to take a lot. Because guess what? At the end of the year, people say, wow, why don't you come and give me back money? No, it's your money, my dear. Try to owe them money. They will charge you a high interest daily. But when it comes to your own money at the end, if you're happy, oh, they give you back money. No, they did not give you back your money. It's your own money. So you understand how that works? So very important, very simple things. I know it doesn't amount to, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or really highly educated to understand simple ways you can understand how tax work and how you can actually be ready for that. Also understand your rights as a consumer. How can you protect yourself when it comes to fraud or so many are happening there? How can you protect yourself from basically being scammed? So much is going around nowadays, and they're very, very sophisticated about it. My cousin in Ottawa recently, they call her from somewhere, and they say, oh, because you know these people follow you, or they just try. They saw a date. She's very religious, and they tell her that her pastor who was sick is going to go undergo an operation. She should send $500. And the poor woman works basic jobs here in Canada. So what does she do? She didn't tell her daughter. And the daughter said, don't do things like that. So she ended up giving them $500, and they told her, go buy a Visa card. So she paid that. Next thing, they took her money, and they even closed the line that she was calling on. And then the daughter comes from work. She sat on the ground. She said to the daughter, call me any name you want. I'm so... This is what what happened to me. I said, well, look at it this way. Maybe God wanted to give somebody $500, but don't do the same mistake again. So you laugh. Okay. So it's so funny. Those things basically happen again. It's very important when it comes to money that you have to encourage practical experiences, how to manage your small budget, learning how budget basically works, or saving basically for specific goals. There are many, many ways you can do it, by the way. And trust me, it doesn't matter. You see, saving is a habit. So is spending, by the way. Okay? If you can put every pay period, even $5, you become used to that, and you'll always have the urge to put your $5 every pay period you get. And next thing you know what? It adds up. Okay? And then you can increase it down the road. And how can you do all of that? You need to make sure you have a budget. So you know what your wants are, what your needs are. So that will help you basically simplify your life and be able to build wealth for yourself. Again, be very realistic and be very flexible with your budget as well. Avoid impulse purchasing. They do a lot of advertising on TV and radio. People get so the urge they want to go and buy. Don't get sucked into that. Be smart about it as well. Again, this is celebrate small wins as well. Motivate yourself, reward yourself. So I'm not saying that just focus on saving and just paying your needs. You also have to have a life. You also have to have fun in your life. So let's be frugal, be smart about it. So maybe your idea of fun, I find that in Toronto, if you live in Toronto, okay, there are so many things you can do for free. You can make your own food at home, package the food, and go. I know we Africans like to eat raw food all the time. Hey, we are in Canada, it's a cold environment. So pack something that you can also eat when cold when it is outside. Don't worry about that. You can do some mandazis, you can have your own tea, carry it with you, and go and enjoy life. There's so much, especially in the summertime, there's so much. In the wintertime, there's so much. I know you're telling me it's cold, but guess what? You are a Canadian now. Get used to the cold, okay? So bundle up, wear layers of clothes, learn how to skate. I tried to, but I couldn't. But I like to go out. By the way, I prefer the winter time here than the summertime because I find the summer is so hot. And they tell me, oh, you come from a hot place. What are you complaining about? I said, yeah, it's hot. It's humid. Where I come from, I stand under a tree. There's breeze. Here, there's none. So that's what I always tell them from there. By following these simple basic steps, you actually will be on your way for a happier and healthier financial future for yourself. So, again, these are simple ideas in a new industry. Again, financial industry is not new. It's an old industry. But it has to be revolutionized. You have to own the knowledge in order for you to navigate the financial industry. So it's not very difficult, okay? Now, we have to take charge of our own finances and then step into the financial world by even going to a bank and asking them, by the way, where is my $1 going? How are you investing my money? Whatever, things like that. Please don't feel ashamed. Ask questions. Sometimes people, as I said earlier, it's like a taboo and people feel ashamed that, oh, the bank teller will know how much I have. So you work hard for your dollar. So why don't you be also able to ask the right questions for yourself? But if you don't know what to ask, you're not going to ask. That's why empower yourself with the knowledge and go out and do that. Again, you have to integrate your financial planning strategies and services, your own personal finances. How do you do that? How do I save? How do I invest? How education funding if I have children as well? How do I go along that? Long-term care. Many of our people work in healthcare services in North America, in Canada here as well. You see people in the long-term care. All right? Long-term care costs money. Even if you want to apply for a government long-term care, you have to have a waiting list. That takes forever to do that. Personally, for me, I don't want to be in a long-term care. My mom passed away in 2011. We did not put her in a long-term care. We stayed home with her. We took care of her until she passed on. So I work part-time, by the way, in healthcare services. I was actually interested after my mom passed away. I wanted to know how the health service in Canada works. And boy, I got an eye-opener. You know, I did a placement at a retirement, at a long-term care in a dementia unit. Was another story by itself. I don't want to be in that situation. And if I can let people know, like I'm telling people about financial literacy, education and awareness, I also want you to take point and notice of the healthcare system. I also get into the hospital, one of the largest hospitals here as well. I am seeing very interesting and strange things happening. So I really don't want to. Again, we have so much against us, just being people from Africa and African descent as well. Now, education system is against us, financial situation is against us. I remember when in my old days working in the not-for-profit sectors here, I used to hear this systemic discrimination, like, what does that mean? So when I came into the financial services industry, I saw it firsthand, what the systemic discrimination is all about. So there are even ways preventing us from building wealth for ourselves. Can you believe that? But you should rise above that. Be smart about it. You can take charge. Once we have our resources, nobody will mess with us. Okay? And I don't care. Because sometimes it's just a human nature. When you don't have much and you're trying to make much, I might feel a bit jealous or resentful of you, but it shouldn't be. Each household, please build your own financial wealth for your family. Because I believe that once we at a certain level, now we have a meeting of the minds, you can always be able now to do things beyond our own individual household. So please make financial literacy, financial education, and not just take the knowledge, implement the knowledge as well. It makes a big difference for yourself and for your family. I said let's talk. Basically, my specialty area as well is I provide you knowledge, education, and strategies in a number of areas. Okay, insurance. What is insurance? You hear about insurance, and funny enough, you see. Anybody? Okay, I know Hannah is. Hannah, you can close your ears. Anybody under the age of 18 here? Okay, so I can say that very quick. So people don't want to talk about, especially our people, they want to talk about money, they want to talk about sex, they want to talk about death. Guess what? I have news for you. In Canada, if you're in Canada, you're going to be paying taxes, guaranteed. Okay? And guess what? Guarantee you're going to die one day. So I always tell people, you might as well die in style. Alright? So it could happen. And you hear about insurance, you say, oh, I don't want to die. I said, guess what? You're going to die. So you might as well plan for it as well. And what is really insurance? Even if you don't want to help others, at least to bury you. Okay? Because what we do most in my community, when somebody dies, they ask us to contribute money. And sometimes we even become sophisticated about it. Oh, nothing less than $100. Huh? That's funny. So I don't want, even when my mom passed away, people came and I was like, no, I don't want people to give me money. And then my cousin had to say, oh, no, Huda, this is because people are coming here, they just want to, for food or stuff like that. But to be honest, I was so uncomfortable. And I made sure whatever people contributed, maybe I said, I'll give it back somehow, some way. Okay? So, because I know how our people are struggling here. It's not easy. First of all, when a person comes to your home to pay their respect or their condolences, they're taking time away from work, that they lose money. They definitely cook something to bring, that costs money. Okay? They take transportation, that takes money. They take time, all of those things cost money. On top of that, you expect them to give you money as well. It just doesn't sit well with me because I totally understand how not easy it is that money comes by. Okay? We may not think about it, but it's there. Again, understand the different type of insurance, critical illness, disability, cancer, long-term care. Again, if you're going to be retiring, again, long-term care is not only for old people, by the way. You see a lot of young people, due to an accident, due to a health issue, they end up in a long-term care. Where is the money coming for that? All right, so you need to plan for all of that. We always insure our cars. We always, because the landlord insists that we have to have an apartment content insurance, we do that. Yes, they're important, but you are the person who pays for all of that. Why not protect you, the machine that brings the money home? Okay, so those are the kind of things that you basically need to understand. Personally, for me, I had one of my sons has like a critical health issue, and I was a beneficiary of a critical illness. The insurance company was able to pay us a lot of money because my son has this health condition. Okay, and I was smart enough. The only thing I said, I should have asked for more. But of course, you normally don't take insurance because you want your person to pass away. But it's just a good money or life planning process that you can do for yourself. So again, it does pay. Now, a lot of people who don't understand about insurance, educate yourself about it, because a lot of people don't understand and they shy away from insurance and say, I don't want to die. But remember, you're going to die. So as I said, make sure that you have the right basic planning for that. Funeral planning as well. Now, a lot of people, when they pass on, they want the body to be taken maybe back home. That's about $25,000 just to take a coffin back home. And also, people like to buy the most expensive coffin, but guess what? I hear in some places they steal the coffin and they throw the body. You've heard of that before. So be very, very careful when it comes to that. Talk about those things among yourself. You know, when it comes to funeral, a lot of Canadians here nowadays, traditionally, you know that the person passes, dies, we go and dig a grave and bury them. But a lot of Canadians are not doing that anymore. They're doing what they call cremation. They don't want to basically, because it's very expensive. So I remember when my mom passed away, my mom wanted her body to be donated to university for studies. And I'm like, wow, my mom was really ahead of her time. Like, how did even she came with that? Unfortunately, then my mom was not in a position because when she passed away, they said they came in and they said that it wasn't the right corp. So now I don't want to know because of, just kidding. But anyway, I won't say that. So she wasn't a candidate for to be basically taken into for studies and stuff like that. So now we have to go to plan B. So I was basically the planning for everything. Then I said, okay, to my siblings, how about cremation? A lot of people like, they take a gas. Why would you want to cremate, blah, blah, blah. And I say, you know what, I don't really want to go through a lot of arguing with anybody. That's okay. If people want to do it, and I also have to be respectful of some of the elders, but I say, guess what? It's going to cost us a lot of money. So I basically went the traditional way of doing it. All right? But it costs a lot of money because guess what? When you pass away in Canada, they take your body to the well, the morgue, and after the morgue it goes to the funeral home. The funeral home charges, okay? If you want to have an open casket, whatever they charge. When the cemetery is another price, by the way, you have to pay for that. And when they dig the ground, it's another price, by the way. If you want to do a reception, it's another price. So it is very bloody expensive, excuse my language. You see, you're more expensive dead than alive in North America, okay? So why? It's almost like taking cash and putting it in the ground. All right? And again, not to disrespect our departed souls, but we have to be realistic about it when it comes to things like that. Very, very important. So that was with the story with my mom. Another friend of ours, she was from South Africa. I've known her since I came to Canada. She was very straightforward. She said to me, Huda, when I pass away, I want cremation. I'm like, oh, okay. She was not young. She was older than me. So anyway, it happened. She passed away. She didn't have family here, so I took charge and two other friends of ours. But she passed away during COVID. And even because I really didn't have a as well. So you have to know that. Luckily, we had a friend of ours who was going to South Africa. She carried the ashes. And Africans like, damn, you're carrying a dead body. But anyway, so, you know, we laugh about it, but that's reality. So those things happen. We fear death, but those things do happen. But in North America, those things cost. If you do not plan your funeral ahead of time, guess what? How many of you, some of you may have seen a funeral home. They look very serene, very nice. Okay, remember the story of the rat. You go in, they're very sympathetic, they're talking to you, and here you are feeling guilty because you never visited that person when they were sick. All of a sudden they died because you're busy working. Now you want to pay back, so you're feeling guilty. So any amount you want to pay. The funeral home, they know that. They will milk you. And you will be crying in between tears, yeah. Charge. Next thing you know, like, damn, that loved one of mine cost so much. So that's why I try to remove the emotions from these decisions. Make sure that you talk about, again, remember I said death, sex, and money, we don't talk about it. Normalize those conversations in your family, plan it, even to the extent my friend who passed away, she even had the music, everything, because she gave it to me and I knew that in writing. So we knew exactly what music to play. Everything was just, I said, you know what? They call it a concierge service. Just walk into show up at your funeral. Okay? So that's basically what had happened when it came to that. Very important doing that. Building wealth. We have savings. We have tax-free savings account. It's a good plan to have, by the way. This is they call it the tax-free savings account. And again, a lot of people misunderstand what it's like. They say, oh, saving, I can take my money out and I don't have to pay taxes. Yeah, but guess what? The financial institution where you put your money is the one making all the profit on your behalf. That's why you need to know where you put your money, how the money can work for you, and how much interest you can. If you put the entire $50,000 one time, you only get 20% of 2,400. So be smart about it. Again, find what are the so-called free money. Do it. Educate yourself about where to put your money and things like that. What are the other strategies? There are other strategies you can also plan for your kids' education as well, not only RESP, by the way. That will be even more. Retirement, pension, Canada pension plan, RSP. Somebody recently was saying that, oh, they can work in Canada. You know how much the CPP in Canada is, which is the Canada pension plan. Anybody knows? How much? Yeah, you can get as less than 200. However, the maximum is 1,300. Okay, you have to have worked 40 years in Canada and have contributed the full maximum contribution to receive $1,300 as a Canada pension plan. Imagine. So you hear about GIS, guaranteed investment account. So no, what is that? The
they take away from that as well. Those are things you need to understand, and on top of that, all of what I just shared here with you as well, you have to pay taxes on it. You have to pay taxes on your retirement, your pension, and things like that. If you have an RSP, let's say you're saving every month or every year, the government will tell you how much you can take out, maximum, and how minimum you can take out. Again, it's all controlled. So you really need to understand and navigate the financial industry and sectors to see how you can fare better for yourself as well. Very important for us to do that. Reserve your wealth. I talked about estate planning. You have to have a trust. You have to have a will. You have to have a power of attorney. Anybody, if you're 18 and up, you need to have those things in place. Okay? So find out how it is done. Talk to somebody. Always important to have a financial educator or somebody to be able to help you with that. I want to say thank you for your time. If you want to applause for me, by all means, go ahead. Okay. So, okay. Mama Hai has a question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I've learned a lot. In the spirit of reinventing ourselves that I'm going away with from the gentleman, some of us first-generation immigrants have worked so hard, but you find yourself in this vicious cycle of unfulfilled dreams and visions. And we pass that anxiety to our children, the second-generation immigrants, and you see that they're trying so hard. But how can we help our children who don't have, number one, that generational wealth that their peers have? They're having all these assets passed on, yet they're in the same class competing for a better future. How can we help them? Another thing I wanted to maybe remark, you talked about, I think, building wealth, and you mentioned a few things, RDSP, RESP. I just wanted to talk to, since we are dealing with youth today, to remind them that it's never too early. It's about time to start planning. In everything, education, when you think about your kid, or maybe you came here, you just immigrated and you're expecting a baby, this is about the time for you to think about registered education fund. If your children are home and you're expecting to bring them over, it's not late for you to think about putting that money aside so that when they come, you already have that RESP, or even your the insurance as we talked about it. But I also wanted to mention that some of the building wealth things you talked about, like RDSP, some of us have done them without educating ourselves on the details about them. I'll tell you about RDSP, for example. You go in schools, they tell you, oh, if your child is special need, you know, at this age, you have to have RDSP. And then you start. You get to a point where you can pull out and discover that he will actually benefit when he's 60 years old. I'm telling you this out of experience. At 60 years old, is my child having the opportunity to live? How do I know that they are going to live to be 60, first of all? Is there a better opportunity for me to save for that child instead of putting money aside for him to be able to access it at 60? So I'm saying this to encourage the young ones here, the youth. I'm very sure all of us here are youth. Please inform yourself, educate yourself, but also never think that it's too early for you to start. Again, I want to ask you, how do we help the generation, the second generation immigrants, not carry on our anxieties and our struggles? How do we give them but the struggles of working overtime, how can they have a better life than we have had?
Thank you so much for sharing these comments and the question as well. It's a challenge when it comes, especially, again, it's our conditioning. As a parent, our job is to provide for our kids. So we never talk about how we make the money. Like a child wants a shoe, the parents will work so hard and will buy that shoes for that child. Remember during Christmas time, like in my culture in South Sudan, normally during Christmas time, only the kids get clothes and the home get new linens and cleaned and food and blah, 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 not the adults. But again, our role as a parent, we're supposed to provide for our kids, right? So we don't even share with them how the money is being made. We carry the same ways of thinking and behavior when we come to North America. So it's very, very hard to break away from such. So all I would encourage people is, I said, normalize conversations. That's what I said earlier about the 3 things that we don't talk about. We should strive to try and have conversation with the kids. Yes, you want this. This is how, not, of course, you're stressed out sometimes. You don't even know how you deliver the message. It can be very stressful and traumatizing for the child. On the other side, you don't also, it's a very fine balance. You don't want to traumatize the children, you know, because I've talked to so many young people and they said, oh, when I grow up, I don't want to have children because they saw their parents struggling. They don't want to continue with that cycle. I said, no, you can, because we don't know how to. Again, things like also with the language issue as well, like people like from my community, a lot of people don't speak English and they come with younger kids. The kids end up speaking English faster than the parents and sometimes they translate. So imagine that trauma by itself for that particular parent as well. So there is no a one answer I can give you, but all I would say is like try to talk about it, normalize it if you can. Talk about your kids about money. Talk about, okay, let's plan, involve them, and tell them basic things like, okay, this is how much we're paying for the rent, and this is how much money I'm making. Like when you do a budget together with them, it could be a start of somewhere. And then make, as I said, saving is a habit, so is spending. Okay? Yes, even when I remember when I came here, there are so many things in abundance. And then you get so excited, you want to buy. Like sometimes you're like, oh shoot, I wish I was smarter about things, but hey, things happen, all right? So again, nobody's perfect. Try from somewhere, even if it is a $5, as I say. And there are many, many things you can do. By the way, insurance is a very, very critical thing actually you can put in place, all right? Even if you don't have the money, remember, you can actually even get what you call a temporary insurance for now for your kid, okay? Let them get that because you never know. If needs be, one day you will build on it and you can change it in a different way. So that's another simple way of doing, rather than, for example, the RDSP, for example, okay? And again, there are certain qualifications, for example, when it comes who qualifies for insurance. Literally, everybody does. But once you educate yourself about the different type of insurance, then you are able to make an informed decision. So please, please do not just walk into a bank. Bank offer insurance for you. Don't just walk into a bank. I've had so many people that went to the bank, and now any information that the bank collects on you, it goes into a centralized area. So if you ever in the future become educated and aware of insurance products, for example, you want to now set one for your family or yourself, the first thing that the insurance, that company is going to go into is going to go to that database to see what did you answer. So it's always good to have somebody and then ask the person what their level of expertise is or who do they work for. Research that company that they work for, see what product they have. Sometimes they will tell you don't have it because guess what? That particular agent may only have access to one product or 2 products. Therefore, they will only give you based on the criteria of the company that they represent. So therefore, you may want to go to somebody who has a wide variety of products and services, and that person will be able to advocate for you. For example, I am contracted with a number of insurance companies. Guess what? I don't work for them. The person I work for normally is my client because I'm supposed to advocate for you. I'm supposed to find you the best product out there. I am the person between you and those companies because if you don't know, now you're going to throw yourself into so many challenges and tangling yourself into so many webs that it will be difficult. Yes, you can get out of it, but with a lot of fight. And you don't want that to happen as well. So back to your question, how do you protect the younger generation? Again, simple. Have a conversation with them. Let them know exactly. Be honest and open with them. Don't be afraid that you're protecting them. Kids nowadays, they're even more resilient and more smarter than another generation. So talk to them about those things. Let them know exactly what are the expenses in the household. Or you want to do a budget, maybe involve them in something like that. And then say, okay, based on this, what do you think? Where can things stand? Now they become aware of those things. Yes, when you're new to Canada, you don't have any wealth to pass on. Even if you have properties back home, sometimes the value of that property may not equate to here. It depends as well. So these are the things you're going to start. And I always say you have to start from somewhere, start building wealth. You don't have to come from money to make money in North America. You can actually start from somewhere. And there are easiest and quickest way to build wealth. I mean, insurance is one of the quickest way to build wealth. If you have a $1 million insurance, you will never be able in your life to save up to $1 million. But through insurance, you can. And you can do certain things in place. Because when you're buying insurance, it's not about insurance really. Insurance is about transferring risk from you to insurance company. Insurance companies make a lot of money. They're the wealthiest in industries, by the way, more than the banks and other financial institutions. They make a lot of money because they have agents also who go in the market and get money. Because remember, every month there's a deposit coming into how many billions of dollars are coming in terms of premiums. And sometimes people, the consumer, don't know what the right policy or what right insurance to get for themselves. So therefore they get taken as well. So therefore you need to be able to understand how does that work. And the insurance company can afford actually to have insurance for you, by the way. So all you have to do now is be smart about it as well. Okay, I need $1 million, what can I do? Insurance companies are always looking for healthy young people, you know, because they know that person is going to be quite sometime whatever they're putting in, whether it's $20 a month, that's cash into the insurance company. They know that. But the difference is now that particular young person have to be smarter. Am I doing the right, did I pick up the right products or not? You see? So therefore, I know it's not easy. Education. Find out. Don't just rely on internet, or don't only rely on TV or newspaper. Talk to people. Do your due diligence as well in order for you to do that. I hope that answered your question, really.
Amazing. Any more questions? No? Amazing. Thank you so much. All right, so now it's come to time for lunch. So how we are going to be doing it is our lovely volunteers will be leading you table by table to get lunch. And for those who have joined and didn't hear the beginning of the sessions, my name is Simona, I'm the MC today. If you did park in the parking lot, we did want to remind you that parking is free. So if you'd like to learn more about that, just visit the ladies at the bar at the back and they can help you with that. But now we are going to be having lunch, so if you could kindly go table by table and grab a plate and you can get some lunch.
Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today. Please have white on the set, it's Ronnie on the beat. Please have white on the set, it's Ronnie on the beat.